What is the best horror story you can come up with in 2 sentences? One I heard a while ago. Not taking credit for this. Growing up with cats and dogs, I got used to the sounds of scratching at my door while I slept. Now that I live alone, it is much more unsettling. My grandmother told me that it was a gift to see the angel of death in front of people's houses. To know that he'd be collecting someone there soon. I thought it was a gift too. Up until the day I began to see it in front of every house. My sister says that mommy killed her. Mommy says that I don't have a sister. I begin tucking him into bed and he tells me, "Daddy, check for monsters under my bed." I look underneath for his amusement and see him. Another him. Under the bed. Staring back at me, quivering and whispering, "Daddy, there's somebody on my bed." Juan J. Ruiz. This could be a Twilight Zone episode. Well done. Yesterday my parents told me I was too old for an imaginary friend and that I had to let her go. They found her body this morning. Don't be scared of the monsters. Just look for them. Look to your left. To your right. Under your bed. Behind your dresser. In your closet, but never look up. She hates being seen. You fuck right off, bro. I can't move. Breathe. Speak or hear, and it's so dark all the time. If I knew it would be this lonely, I would have been cremated instead. For years we heard the little voices and footsteps of the ghost children in our old farmhouse. And we got used to them. Then one day they went quiet. Which should have been our own cue to leave. The doctors told the amputee he might experience a phantom limb from time to time. Nobody prepared him for the moments though, when he felt cold fingers brush across his phantom hand. Whoa. I want to read a whole story about this. Such potential. Edit. Bravo. /u/Nesfermarki. Exceptional. It had been 6 months since the accident. I remember because Elizabeth was helping me sign my name in our daughter Jenny's birthday card. Slowly she guided by hand, helping me create some legible signature rather than the scribbles of a child in kindergarten. The best that I was able to manage with such little practice. It seems that when one loses a limb, it's quite likely to be the dominant one. For me it was the right. I was concentrating on my writing, trying not to make her do too much of the work. When I felt it, I hadn't noticed the phantom feeling of my elbow resting on the table beside me. By this point I had almost gotten used to it, although the pain would sometimes still wake me. It was brief, but enough to startle me and cause my hand, still holding the pen, to jump and effectively turn my name into scribbles despite my wife's best efforts. It was gentle but cold. Too cold. Less like ice and more like the feeling of a deep cut, when the insides of a body part are suddenly exposed to the outside elements that they were never supposed to meet. When Elizabeth asked, I shrugged it off, telling her it was an unexpected pain in the hand that was convinced it was clenched, even though it didn't exist. At the moment, I almost believed that that was what happening myself. The next time it woke me, I was asleep on my stomach, with my phantom arm dangling off of the bed. I've slept like that as long as I can remember. And when I first felt it I thought that my hand had fallen asleep and causing the pins and needles sensation that I had often felt. When I tried to open and close my hand, I awoke, remembering in a sleepy haze that I didn't have a hand to open. Yet the cold feeling remained. This time it stayed a while, and I could make out the distinct feeling of fingers on my skin. I tried to shake my hand, but couldn't. I pushed down with my left hand and shifted to roll over onto my back. Yet the feeling remained, still as defined. And I wondered how long this invisible hand had held me. I shook my wife awake and explained. But she was convinced that it was simply a part of the process. She held me and talked to me in her cooing, comforting voice until, one by one, the fingers lifted, releasing me from the torture of the cold. Feeling it reminded me of the accident. There was a blizzard, and Elizabeth was driving. As a truck approached, the car slid. She tried like hell to control it, but it seemed to have a mind of its own. I grabbed the wheel, spinning the car until it came to a stop. Then the truck hit us. My arm was mostly severed at the time of impact, but my wife and daughter were fine. The feeling of blood escaping you chills you to the bone. And that was exactly what I was feeling while in this creature's grasp. For months it happened, with no warning or reason. The doctors said it was just the phantom limb, that it was to be expected. No one understood that something was wrong. Sometimes it would last days at a time. And those were the days when I would stay in bed, watching TV, trying not to focus on the hand around my wrist, trying not to think of the thing that was holding me. Sometimes its grip would loosen only to tighten again, as if the hand that didn't exist was sore from holding my hand that didn't exist for so long. The one day, it stopped. For a month or so, nothing happened at all. I had gone from living with an unknown entity at my side every day to finally being free. We lived it up during that time. We went everywhere, from the Grand Canyon to Disney World. It had been forever since we had the opportunity to spend time as a family again. And we enjoyed every moment we had. Grateful to have suffered only a small loss to our family. We had opened the cafe again. And my wife was doing what she loved. My daughter and I were at the cafe. It was closing time. She and I sat at a table outside while Elizabeth closed the register, chatting about the upcoming middle school dance. My wife joined us and locked the doors. "Wanna come with me?" she asked, patting the bag of money in her hand awaiting deposit at the bank across the street. Jenny jumped up, eager, no doubt, to get one of the suckers from the candy dish that the bank kept at its counter. "I'll warm up the truck," I said, fishing my keys from my pocket. My wife nodded in approval and walked me to the truck, kissing me on the cheek through the window after I entered, and again on glass after I rolled it up. They headed down the length of the truck and I turned to check the mirror when I saw it. A truck barreling down the road heading straight for my wife and daughter. I screamed her name and threw the door open when the hand that wasn't there was suddenly jerked to the opposing side of the truck, holding me in place as I kicked and screamed. The kiss on the glass of the window was the last I ever got. And the hand never let go again. You would make a good horror writer. Thanks. I've actually written 2 novels. Both still need editing. But I don't expect them to be published. That's not easy when you're unknown. I would so read that book. Shit, that was an awesome story. I woke up to hear knocking on glass. At first, I thought it was the window until I heard it come from the mirror again. You should probably stop locking people in your medicine cabinet. They celebrated the first successful cryogenic freezing. He had no way of letting them know he was still conscious. Poor Walt Disney. When I finally grabbed her in the darkness, I swam back to the surface. It never occurred to me how fast the ice could freeze over. The operation wasn't successful in the traditional sense since my sight didn't return. But it left me with the ability to distinguish heat signatures. At least. 3 weeks have passed and I'm still not sure how to politely ask my best friend why he's room temperature. There's something amazingly awesome about this idea. I think it would make a great short story. I can't sleep, she whispered, crawling into bed with me. I woke up cold, clutching the dress she was buried in. After so many years living alone in this large house, I came to a startling revelation. In this time I had closed far more doors than I had opened. Stupid fucking wind. There was a picture in my phone of me sleeping. I live alone. They caught me slipping. The last thing I saw was my alarm clock flashing 12:07 before she pushed her long rotting nails through my chest, her other hand muffling my screams. I sat bolt upright, relieved it was only a dream. But as I saw my alarm clock read 12:06, I heard my closet door creak open. And you wake from that dream and it keeps happening recursively. After the 10th time you get bored and make light conversation. You try to bring up your favorite television shows. She hates Breaking Bad. Years ago, a lone chair appeared in the center of the basement. And no matter how many times I put it back in the corner, it always found a way back to the center. It took a long time to realize it was positioned underneath the kitchen. Almost like someone had taken a seat at the dinner table with the rest of us. You know that weird full body twitch you get sometimes when you're falling asleep? If there was a camera pointed at you, and you saw what it captured at that moment, you'd never sleep again. They delivered the mannequins in bubble wrap. From the main room I begin to hear popping. You walk in to find your 80-year-old dad rolling on the floor wearing the bubble wrap. The longer I wore it, the more it grew on me. She had such pretty skin. After struggling desperately to move any part of his paralytic body just to alert the doctors that he was conscious before they made the first incision, he was relieved to see that one of the nurses had noticed his pupils dilating from the bright light. She leaned in close and, in a whisper that tickled his ear, said, "You think we don't know you're awake?" She wondered why she was casting two shadows. After all, there was only a single light bulb. Hey, who turned out the lights? I'm sorry, son. I really am. But you've got two shadows. You stupid bastard. I cried as he tied me to the rails. Don't you know this line has been abandoned for years? Of course I know, he said, walking away. No one comes here at all.